Anyway, what is this? Well, this is a Herald Brat 125. Herald are a company in Cambridge which tend to design different bikes, ship in parts from across the world, mainly China, then assemble them, and they put their own spin on the actual bike. So for example, this exhaust I think is actually handmade at their assembly place in Cambridge, I think. So what's the seat like? Well, it's okay, comfortable enough. It's okay for short trips, anything over 45 minutes to an hour. Your backside's going to hurt a little bit and you need a bit of a break, but yeah, overall it's not too bad. It's quite nice padding on that, it's quite comfortable. Comes with LED lights all round, LED headlights, daytime running lights, LED indicators, and an LED rear light and stop light as well. The actual style of the bike is based on a scrambler, and I think it looks pretty good. It's yeah, it's not bad. I often get stopped by several people asking me about the type of bike. Some people actually think it's bigger than a 125. I've had comments of saying, is it a 250? One person even thought it was I think it was a 350, but no, they're quite surprised when I tell them it's only a 125. What's the performance like? Well, it's not going to set the world on fire. The maximum I've got out of this so far is about 63 miles an hour. Takes a little while to run in, I think. As it's getting more mileage on it, it does seem to be slowly creeping up with the speed. Yeah, around the town it's ideal. Keeps up with traffic, pull away some traffic lights very quickly. You can outrun quite a few cars from standing still. First, second, into third, getting quite good acceleration. Once you get into fourth, start slowing down a bit and people start catching up. Fifth, wow, it's not too bad. Forget six, you won't really use sixth gear very often. Yeah, around the streets it's okay, B roads it's okay, A roads pushing it a bit, dual carriageways, yeah, you wouldn't want to be on this for too long on a dual carriageway. You'll get up to about 60, 65 down a hill. Good luck anything over that, I think. But using your gears, you might push it a bit by keeping it in a low gear and thrashing the guts out of it. But then there's a noise. Over about 50, 55, it does get quite noisy. It sounds good, but after about an hour it will grate on you a bit. I think this bike is more for style than speed. If you're not too worried about speed, more into style, then I think this is a really stylish bike for the looks. I mean, yeah, there are quite a few other bikes out there, some of the well-known makes, which will outrun this quite quickly, but for style and looks and the amount of head turns it actually gets and the amount of people who will stop and ask you about it, yeah, this will get noticed. What about the mirrors? Yeah, mirrors okay, barring mirrors. They do vibrate after over about 25-30 miles an hour. You can tell there's something behind you, but sometimes when it vibrates so much you're not too sure exactly what it is behind you. But yeah, they're okay. Good for lane splitting as well. What about luggage capacity? Carrying luggage? Wow, would you really want to carry luggage? I mean, there's some like grab handles here. You could put some panniers over that, but there is nothing here to stop the panniers from dragging and hitting the back wheel. You could put something on there. I'm not sure if there's any accessories for like a luggage rack. You probably wouldn't want to put too much weight on there, because you'll certainly feel it. Suspension is adjustable, just in there. Just twist the suspension, you can rise the suspension a bit. I've twisted it by about 3 or 4 turns. It does feel quite a soft suspension, even with the adjustment on as well. But it rides the bumps quite nice. Any problems since owning it? Well, I've had it for a year and 4 months now, and any problems I've had is it has had a product recall, a safety recall, I think to do with this bolt which holds the swing arm on. That had to go in and had the bolt replaced, apparently. Only other issue I've had is with the expansion tank on the radiator. It's not too bad. You've got to be careful with this nut, which is just down there. Sometimes that works its way loose. You just have to tighten it up a little bit. When I first got it, I noticed that on a hot day, if it was idling, the temperature light would come on. It seems to have cured itself while I've actually filled this up to the maximum amount. After that, it seems to be okay so far. Other problem I had was the horn started to come on slightly on its own when I was idling, which is this button here. A quick squirt of WD-40 in that switch assembly unit there cured the problem. Other than that, so far it seems to be okay. No real major issues as yet. What about the brakes? What are they like? They're okay. Painted red. They stop. You do have to just be a bit careful of the brakes. I tend to use the back brake a lot more than I do the front brake. Front brake's good, just for getting the speed down a bit, and then the last final bit in slow moving traffic with the rear brake. Yeah, they're okay. Just have to be a little bit wary of them in the wet. When those discs get wet, it does take a while to stop. But as long as you're careful and planning your braking, it should be okay. A couple of times I've had to do an emergency stop when I've had a car pull out in front of me, and I've had a cyclist go across the front of me, and it stopped okay. Front end does go down quite quickly, so don't grab at the lever. You really have to be careful when you pull the front brake on. But yeah, it's okay. What about rear passenger? Well, I've not had a rear passenger on this bike because I'm still learning on L plates, so legally I can't really have somebody on the back, but it has got foldable foot pegs, and I tend to use that to hang my helmet on, and they're okay. I think it would be okay. I think we've got grab handles there as well for the rear passenger. I think they'd have to be a little bit careful of this exhaust. They don't catch their heels on the exhaust. That does tend to get quite hot. There is a heat shield here. I don't think I'd want to take a passenger on it. I think the rear passenger would find it quite bouncy on the back of that. And it's a 125. Would you really want to put a passenger on the back of that? Probably not really. What about the foot pegs? What are they like? They're okay actually, and they're quite comfortable to stand up on if you're going across rough terrain. Stand up on them, you get quite a good balance on those. I think they're well positioned, quite comfortable when you're actually sitting on the bike as well for long periods. I haven't really had any leg ache. Occasionally I might get some shoulder ache if I'm on it for more than an hour. But I say a 125, you'd probably want to have a bit of a break after about 40 minutes to an hour anyway. But overall, yeah, they're okay. They're well positioned, I think. What about the centre stand and side stand, kickstand? Well, it hasn't got a centre stand. It's got a kickstand, which is a fiddly little thing. It's okay. It's not much surface on the ground, so you might want to get one of them plastic plates if you're on rough ground to slide under, or crush a can and stick it under, because it will sink into the ground. When I was on some rough ground, it's a bit wet, I did watch it slowly sink in, and it felt like the bike was gradually tipping over. But yeah, it's okay. You can move your heel on the back of there to kick it in. Yeah, basic really, it's alright. What's the forks like and the suspension? Yeah, okay, upside down forks. They seem to do the job quite well. Non-adjustable. They're a little bit bouncy on rough ground, and when you pull a front brake on quite heavily, they will go down quite a bit, which you'll notice. But yeah, quite comfortable. I haven't bottomed them out yet, but I think any real rough terrain you will bottom them out a bit, but they're okay. They're quite comfortable. So I think the overall style of this bike looks pretty good. I think the main emphasis on this bike is going to be this exhaust. That sounds good. It looks like it's well made. I think it's been handmade at Herald's assembly place in Cambridge in the UK. They seem to have done quite a bit of work on that to get it a real nice shape. As I say, it's a scrambler version. I do get quite a few comments about it when stopped at traffic lights from other people and other bikers. What does it sound like? Sounds okay, sounds good. It's got quite a nice rasp to it compared to some of the other 125s on the market. Pulled up at a junction or traffic lights, giving it a few revs, it does sound pretty good. On a long run, it'll grate on you. As I say, you need to have a break after 45 minutes to an hour. Your ears will be ringing unless you've got earplugs in. But for a quick ride around the town, around the city, revving it, does sound pretty good. Riding like you've stolen it, it sounds really good. So what does the dashboard look like? Can't really see it in this light, it's a bit difficult to see, but it's very basic. This got the speed, miles per hour, rev counter and gear selection, and odometer and trip switch there, and that is that. If you drove it into the sea, would it float? Good question. Not this model, no, it wouldn't. So my overall thoughts of this, yeah, for somebody who's just passed their CBT and can ride a bike up to a 125, not really looking for too much speed but looking for style, this is a good bike to go for. I think it's good to learn a bike. It's good on-road, it's good off-road. Off-road is where it really comes into its little play, especially with those tyres. You can really chuck it around a bit. The The footsteps are well positioned. You can go over quite a few different rough terrain, rough bumps, bits and pieces. Really good. Those tyres really grab into the soil, into the wet ground. On the road, it's good. Around the town, around the city, up to about 40 miles an hour, you will really rip the streets up. It's really good. Good for lane splitting. You can chuck it around quite a bit in the dry. In the wet, you've got to be a bit more careful. Those tyres are not that forgiving in the wet. It feels a little bit slippery. Yeah, you want to keep your speed down a little bit and not take the corners too fast with those tyres on. Once you get used to the size of the tyres, especially if you've been riding a 125 with thinner tyres, you'll notice a slight difference with handling, turning right from like a junction. Yeah, it's good, but just get used to those tyres if you're used to thin tyres. But overall, it's a good bike. It does turn quite a few heads, and I think for a new rider, any age really, I think you'd be quite surprised with it and quite happy with it as well.